Kingdom Come Deliverance. This isn't your usual RPG. There's no magic, no dragons, no ancient prophecies. Instead, it's a game that throws you into medieval Bohemia and says, good luck surviving. You play as Henry, a blacksmith's son whose life gets flipped upside down when his village is burned to the ground. What follows is a gritty journey of revenge, survival, and figuring out your place in a world that doesn't owe you anything. The first thing you'll notice about this game is how real it feels. The combat isn't flashy or over the top. It's slow, methodical, and surprisingly hard at first. Sword fights feel like actual duels where timing and precision matter more than button mashing. And it's not just combat, everything in the game has this grounded vibe. You've got to eat to stay alive, sleep to stay sharp, and even keep your clothes clean if you want people to take you seriously. It sounds like a lot, but it pulls you into the world in a way most games don't. And speaking of the world, Bohemia is gorgeous. From the small villages to the dense forests and rolling hills, every corner feels alive. NPCs go about their daily routines, and how you interact with them actually changes how they see you. Show up covered in mud and blood, and people will react like they're looking at a lunatic. These little details make everything feel so immersive. The quests are another highlight. They aren't your typical go fetch this or kill that they're layered and give you options. Maybe you sneak into a camp to poison the bandits' food, or maybe you smooth talk your way out of a sticky situation. Every choice has a ripple effect, and you never know how things are going to turn out. It's one of those games where you feel like your decisions truly matter. But I'll be honest, Kingdom Come isn't easy to get into. The game throws a lot at you right away, and it doesn't hold your hand. The combat system alone takes some time to get used to, and you might find yourself frustrated at first. But once it clicks, you'll be hooked. It's rewarding in a way that few games are, where every victory feels earned. If you're into history, this game is a goldmine. It's packed with historical details and lore that make the world feel authentic. Even the dialogue has this old-timey flair without being over the top. But even if history isn't your thing, the story and gameplay are more than enough to keep you hooked. Kingdom Come Deliverance is one of those games that takes its time but pays off in spades. It's challenging, immersive, and unlike anything else out there. If you're ready to trade dragons for dirty boots and real sword fights, give it a shot. Just don't forget to save. Often things can go south fair. Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 is a road trip, a bromance, and an epic RPG all rolled into one. It's a game that doesn't just focus on saving the world, but also spends time on the bond between its main characters, making the whole journey feel personal and emotional. You play as Noctis, the crowned prince of Lucis, who sets out on a road trip with his three best friends Gladio, Ignis, and Prompto. At first it feels lighthearted, four guys cruising in their car, cracking jokes and camping out under the stars. But as the story unfolds, things get heavier, diving into themes of duty, loss, and sacrifice. The camaraderie between the group is the heart of the game, and by the end, you'll feel like you've been through the ringer with them. The world of Final Fantasy 15 is stunning. It's massive, open, and packed with beautiful landscapes from sunlit plains to dense forests and coastal towns. The attention to detail is incredible. Everywhere you go feels alive. You'll stumble across quirky NPCs, side quests, and hunts for massive monsters. There's even a day-night cycle that adds an extra layer of strategy as more dangerous creatures come out at night. Combat is fast and fluid, blending real-time action with RPG mechanics. Noctis can warp around the battlefield, striking enemies with a variety of weapons and using flashy, satisfying combos. The ability to summon massive astrals, think gods, is jaw-dropping and makes you feel unstoppable when you can pull it off. It's not the most complex system, but it's fun and looks amazing. The side quests and hunts are hit or miss. Some are great, like taking down gigantic monsters or discovering hidden lore. Others feel more like filler fetch quests and errands that don't add much. But the main story missions are where the game really shines, with some jaw-dropping set pieces and emotional moments. And then there's the car, the regalia. It's not just a vehicle, it's a part of the team. You can customize it, take scenic drives, and even fly it later in the game. Driving around the world while listening to classic Final Fantasy soundtracks on the in-game radio is pure nostalgia for longtime fans. If there's a downside, it's that the story can feel a little disjointed at times. The game's development history is complicated, and you can sense that some parts were rushed or not fully fleshed out. DLCs and updates have since filled in some gaps, but the pacing can still feel uneven in spots. That said, Final Fantasy 15 is a journey worth taking. It's not a perfect game, but its heart is undeniable. The friendship between Noctis, Gladio, Ignis, and Prompto makes it special, and the blend of open world exploration and fast-paced combat keeps things exciting. Whether you're a longtime Final Fantasy fan or new to the series, this one is a ride you won't forget. Just bring some tissues for the ending, it hits hard. Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is the kind of RPG that doesn't just pull you into a world, it gives you the keys and lets you decide how the story unfolds. Developed by Larian Studios, this game takes the epic scale of Dungeons & Dragons and combines it with the kind of player freedom you'd expect from a tabletop campaign. The result? A game that feels as much about your decisions as it is about the story itself. You start off in a pretty grim situation, abducted by mind flayers, parasitic creatures that plant a tadpole in your brain, which is slowly transforming you into one of them. From there, it's up to you to figure out how to stop the transformation while navigating a world full of danger, alliances, and moral dilemmas. Oh, and you'll also meet some of the most interesting companions in RPG history along the way. The real magic of Baldur's Gate 3 lies in its freedom. Every choice matters, whether it's how you approach a conversation, who you side with, or even how you fight. You can charm an NPC into helping you sneak past enemies undetected, or go in swords or spells blazing. The dice rolls bring that classic DD tension, and the outcomes can completely change how a scenario plays out. The game doesn't hold your hand, but that's what makes it so rewarding. Combat is turn-based and tactical, taking full advantage of DD's 5th edition rules. You'll carefully position your party, use environmental effects like fire or water to your advantage, and cast powerful spells to outwit enemies. The level of depth is incredible. Every encounter feels like a puzzle with multiple solutions, and it rewards creativity in a big way. The characters are another highlight. Your companions, each with their own backstory and motivations, feel like real people. Whether it's the brooding vampire Astarion, the mysterious Shadowheart, or the passionate Lae'zel, their personal quests and interactions bring the world to life. And yes, the romance options are, let's just say, very memorable. Baldur's Gate 3 is a masterpiece of storytelling, choice, and immersion. Whether you're a DD veteran or just love a good RPG, this game is an absolute must-play. It's a game where no two players will have the exact same experience, and that's what makes it so special. Dive in, roll the dice, and see where your journey takes you. Just be prepared to lose a lot of hours it's worth every second. Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is more than just a game, it's an experience. It's the kind of RPG that sucks you in and doesn't let go, with a rich world, unforgettable characters, and a story that feels as personal as it is epic. Even years after its release, it's still the gold standard for open world RPGs. You play as Geralt of Rivia, a monster hunter or witcher with a gravelly voice, 2 swords, and a knack for getting tangled in other people's problems. The main story revolves around his search for Ciri, his adopted daughter, who's being hunted by the terrifying Wild Hunt. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The world is full of side quests and stories that are just as compelling as the main plot, if not more so. And let's talk about the quests, because The Witcher 3 doesn't do boring. Every task feels meaningful, whether you're tracking down a missing villager, investigating a cursed tower, or negotiating with a godlike spirit in a swamp. Even the smallest side quests often have twists that keep you guessing. It's a game that respects your time, there's no filler here, just one great story after another. Combat in The Witcher 3 is fluid and satisfying, though it can take a bit to get used to. You've got your swords, one for humans, one for monsters, and a mix of magical signs, potions, and bombs to help you out. Fighting a griffin or a pack of drowners feels tactical, not mindless. You'll study your enemies, prepare the right gear, and then dive in. Every encounter feels dangerous, which keeps things exciting. The world itself is breathtaking. From the windswept fields of Velen to the bustling streets of Novigrad and the icy Skellige Isles, every region is packed with detail and personality. You can spend hours just wandering around, stumbling across hidden treasures, monster nests, or random encounters that turn into full-blown stories. The day-night cycle and dynamic weather make everything feel alive, whether you're riding Roach through a storm or watching the sun set over a swamp. The 2 expansions, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, are just as incredible. Hearts of Stone tells a dark, twisted tale with one of the best villains in gaming, while Blood and Wine gives you a whole new region to explore, complete with its own mysteries and an unforgettable conclusion to Geralt's story. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt isn't just a game, it's a journey. It's about exploring a world full of life, making tough choices, and losing yourself in the stories it has to tell. Whether you're hunting monsters, unraveling political intrigue, or just playing a few rounds of Gwent at the local tavern, there's always something to keep you hooked. If you haven't played it yet, now's the time. Geralt's waiting, and trust me, it's worth the ride. Skyrim. Skyrim isn't just a game, it's a world waiting for you to get lost in. Since its release, it's been the ultimate RPG playground, offering a massive open world packed with adventure, mystery, and endless opportunities to carve out your own story. Whether you're a battle-hardened warrior, a sneaky thief, or a master of magic, Skyrim lets you be whoever you want to be. The game starts with your character a prisoner, of course, narrowly escaping execution thanks to a dragon attack. From there you learn that you're the Dragonborn, a legendary figure with the power to absorb dragon souls and shout magical abilities into existence. The main quest centers on defeating Alduin, a world-eating dragon, but let's be honest, most of us get distracted before we even make it halfway through that storyline. The real magic of Skyrim is in its freedom. The world is vast and packed with things to do, whether it's joining one of the game's many factions like the Sneaky Thieves Guild or the Honor-Bound Companions, clearing out dungeons, hunting dragons, or just wandering around to see what you stumble into. Every corner of the map holds something interesting, and exploration always feels rewarding. Combat is straightforward but flexible, allowing you to customize your playstyle. Want to dual-wield axes and charge headfirst into battle? Go for it. Prefer staying in the shadows and sniping enemies with a bow? That works too. You can mix melee, magic, and ranged attacks however you like. It's not the deepest system, but the variety makes it endlessly fun. Quests in Skyrim are a mix of epic and personal. Sure, saving the world from dragons is great, but the smaller stories are just as memorable. Maybe you're helping a farmer with a bandit problem, uncovering a Daedric prince's sinister scheme, or figuring out what's really going on in a haunted house. It's these moments that make the world feel alive. And of course, it wouldn't be Skyrim without mods. On PC especially, mods have kept the game fresh for over a decade. Want better graphics, new quests, or the ability to turn all dragons into Thomas the Tank Engine? Mods have you covered. Now, as for some downsides, it's that Skyrim can feel dated in some areas. The combat isn't as refined as more modern RPGs, and the AI can be hilariously bad at times. But honestly, those quirks are part of the charm, and they've never stopped players from pouring hundreds, if not thousands of hours into the game.
I'll bury you!
Dragon Age Origins. Dragon Age Origins is the kind of RPG that pulls you in with its depth and keeps you hooked with its story. It's dark, it's emotional, and it's filled with tough choices that make you question what kind of hero or anti-hero you want to be. BioWare really delivered something special with this one. You start by picking your character's race, class, and origin, and right away the game feels personal. Your origin isn't just a prologue, it's the foundation of your journey. Whether you're a dwarf caught in the political web of Orzammar, or an elf dealing with the harsh realities of discrimination, the world reacts to who you are, making every playthrough feel unique. The story revolves around stopping the Blight, a cataclysmic event where hordes of Darkspawn, led by an archdemon, threaten to consume the world. You're one of the last Grey Wardens, tasked with uniting Ferelden's fractured factions to stand against the coming darkness. But this isn't a straightforward good versus evil tale. The choices you make along the way are murky, with no clear right or wrong answers. Do you side with morally questionable allies for the greater good? Or take a harder, more principled stand? Even if it costs you, the game isn't afraid to challenge you. Combat is tactical and strategic. You can pause the action to issue commands to your party, which adds a layer of depth that rewards careful planning. Whether you're a sword-swinging warrior, a sneaky rogue, or a fireball-hurling mage, the gameplay feels satisfying, especially when you coordinate your team's abilities to dominate a tough fight. And trust me, some battles will test your patience and strategy. The characters are where Dragon Age Origins truly shines. Your companions feel alive, with personalities that clash, evolve, and sometimes surprise you. Alistair is equal parts sarcastic and noble, Morrigan is sharp-tongued with her own agenda, and Liana brings a softer, introspective side. They don't just follow you blindly, they'll question your decisions, argue with each other, and occasionally force you to pick sides. And yes, the romances are as dramatic and engaging as you'd hope, adding a personal layer to the journey. Exploring Ferelden is an adventure in itself. From the haunting, plague-ridden streets of the Alienage to the eerie ruins of the Brazilian forest, every location is rich with lore and atmosphere. The world feels alive, and the attention to detail makes you want to uncover every secret, read every codex entry, and talk to every NPC. While the game's age shows a little in its visuals and some mechanics, it still holds up because of its storytelling and the weight behind your decisions. Every choice you make has a ripple effect, shaping your experience in the world around you. It's a game that respects your input, and that's rare. Dragon Age Origins is a classic for a reason. It's not just about saving the world, it's about the journey, the people you meet, and the messy, complicated decisions you have to make along the way. If you haven't played it yet, you're missing out on one of the best RPG experiences ever created. It's a story that stays with you long after you've put the controller down. Medieval Dynasty. Medieval Dynasty isn't your typical medieval game. It's not about grand battles or overthrowing kings, it's about starting from nothing and building a life in a world that feels raw, real, and alive. It's part survival game, part city builder, and part life simulator, with just enough RPG elements to make it all feel personal. If you've ever wanted to experience the grind of life in the Middle Ages without actually starving or freezing, this is your chance. You start as a lone wanderer, arriving in a small valley with nothing but the clothes on your back. Your goal: survive, thrive, and eventually build a village that can stand the test of time. The first few hours are tough. You're gathering sticks, hunting rabbits, and trying not to die of hunger or exposure, but as you progress, you go from a struggling nobody to the founder of a bustling settlement, complete with villagers, crops, and livestock. The survival mechanics are straightforward but satisfying. You'll need to gather food, stay warm, and manage your stamina as you explore the valley. Hunting, fishing, farming, it's all here, and each activity feels rewarding. Over time, you'll craft tools, build shelters, and expand your little homestead into something much bigger. It's a slow burn, but watching your progress unfold is incredibly satisfying. Building is a huge part of the game, and it's more in depth than just plopping down pre-made structures. You'll need to gather materials, plan your layout, and upgrade buildings as you unlock better technology. It's a hands-on approach that makes your village feel like it's truly yours. Add in the ability to recruit villagers, assign them jobs, and manage resources, and you've got a full-blown management sim layered on top of the survival gameplay. But what really sets Medieval Dynasty apart is its sense of time and legacy. Seasons change, impacting what you can grow, hunt, or gather. Villagers age, relationships form, and eventually you'll pass your dynasty on to your children. It's not just about surviving today, it's about building something that lasts. One of the game's strengths is its pacing. You're not rushed to build an empire overnight. Instead, you can take your time, set your own goals, and grow at your own pace. It's a refreshing change from games that constantly push you to the next big objective. Medieval Dynasty is the kind of game you can lose yourself in for hours. It's relaxing, rewarding, and surprisingly addictive. Whether you're a fan of survival games, city builders, or just want to try something different, it's a game worth checking out. Just don't be surprised if you find yourself saying, okay, just one more season for hours on end. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is like stepping into a vibrant fantasy novel that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's big, colorful, and packed with fast-paced combat that makes you feel like a hero straight out of an epic tale. If you're looking for an RPG that leans into fun gameplay and a sprawling world, this is the one. The story kicks off with your character rising from the dead. Thanks to a mysterious experiment called the Well of Souls, you're the fateless one, someone who can shape their own destiny in a world where everyone else's future is preordained. It's an intriguing setup that ties into the game's overarching theme of breaking free from fate. While the main plot is solid, it's the smaller stories and side quests where the game really shines. Every corner of Amalur is filled with interesting characters and lore, much of it crafted by fantasy author R.A. Salvatore. But let's be real, the combat is the star of the show here. Unlike many RPGs that rely on slower, methodical systems, Reckoning gives you fast, fluid, and ridiculously fun action. You can mix and match weapons, spells, and abilities to create a playstyle that fits you. Maybe you're swinging a giant hammer one moment and hurling fireballs the next. Or maybe you're all about stealth, sneaking up on enemies for devastating backstab damage. The flexibility makes every fight feel exciting, and the flashy combos and special moves keep things fresh. The world of Amalur is massive and full of things to do. From lush forests and rocky deserts to bustling cities and creepy dungeons, every region feels unique. It's not quite open world, it's more of a hub-based design, but the areas are big enough that it still feels expansive. The art style is bright and bold, which might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it gives the game a distinct personality that stands out. Character customization is deep without being overwhelming. You can choose from different races, classes, and skill trees that let you tweak your character exactly how you want. And if you ever feel like switching things up, the game lets you completely respect your abilities for a small fee, so you're never locked into one playstyle. Now, one criticism that the game can feel a little repetitive. The quest design leans heavily on standard RPG tropes, fetch this, kill that, and while the combat makes it fun, some players might find the structure a bit too predictable. The world is also so big that it can sometimes feel a bit empty with lots of space between meaningful encounters. That said, Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is one of those games that's just plain fun. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, but what it does well. The combat is addictive, the world is packed with lore, and the flexibility in how you build and play your character keeps things engaging. If you're in the mood for a fantasy RPG that focuses on fun and gives you plenty to explore, this one's worth a shot. It's not the most groundbreaking game out there, but it's a solid adventure that's perfect for getting lost in. Just grab your weapon of choice, dive into Amalur, and start rewriting fate.
To hell with this place.
Hades. Supergiant Games created something special here, blending tight combat mechanics with a story that grows every time you play. It's the kind of game you can sink dozens of hours into and still feel excited to dive back in. You play as Zagreus, the rebellious son of Hades, who's had enough of life in the underworld and wants to escape to the surface. Of course, his dad isn't thrilled about this plan, so you're up against wave after wave of enemies and bosses trying to drag you back down. The twist? Even when you die, the game rewards you with more story and character interactions, making every failure feel like a step forward. The combat is fast, fluid, and endlessly satisfying. Zagreus has a range of weapons to choose from, each one offering a completely different playstyle. Maybe you prefer the brutal power of the Stygian blade, the speed of the twin fists, or the tactical versatility of the bow. As you progress through each run, you'll receive boons from the Olympian gods that enhance your abilities. The combinations are nearly endless, and figuring out a perfect build on the fly is one of the game's most rewarding aspects. But the real magic of Hades lies in its characters. Zagreus is charming and relatable, balancing snark and sincerity in equal measure. Hades, his stern and often infuriating father, brings just the right mix of authority and disdain. Then there's the extended family of the Olympian gods, each with their own larger-than-life personalities. From the flirtatious Aphrodite to the boisterous Dionysus, every interaction feels lively and full of charm. And let's not forget your underworld allies like Nyx, Achilles, and Duesse, who make the House of Hades feel like a home worth returning to after each run. What's truly brilliant about Hades is how it keeps evolving. Every run introduces new dialogue, fresh upgrades, and meaningful progression. Whether it's unlocking new storylines, improving your skills, or just experimenting with different builds, there's always a reason to try again. The game respects your time. And that's a huge part of what makes it so addictive. It's hard to find a flaw in Hades. Some players might need time to adjust to the roguelike structure, but the steady stream of rewards and narrative depth ensures it never feels repetitive.
All clear.
Lost Judgment. Lost Judgment is the kind of game that hooks you with its intense story, keeps you with its incredible combat, and surprises you with the sheer variety of things to do. As a sequel to Judgment, it builds on everything the first game did right, delivering a gripping mystery while letting you kick some serious ass along the way. You step into the shoes of Takayuki Yagami again, the private detective and ex-lawyer who has a knack for getting involved in cases that dig deep into society's dark corners. This time, Yagami finds himself investigating a high school bullying case that spirals into something much bigger, involving murder, corruption, and a web of secrets that'll keep you guessing. The story balances heavy, emotional themes with lighter moments, and it never feels like it's over the top in the way only RGG studio game can be. The combat system is as fluid and satisfying as ever, with Yagami's three fighting styles: Crane, Tiger, and the new Snake style, giving you plenty of ways to handle enemies. Crane is all about dealing with groups, Tiger focuses on heavy-hitting combos for single targets, and Snake is built for counterattacks and disarming foes. Switching between styles mid-fight feels seamless and keeps the combat fresh. The animations are brutal and stylish, and pulling off those finishing moves never gets old. But Lost Judgment isn't just about punching bad guys. The game is packed with side activities and minigames that are ridiculously fun. One moment you're skateboarding through Yokohama, the next you're dancing in a rhythm game, or maybe you're solving a school mystery involving an underground robot fight club. Yes, that's a thing. It's these side stories and activities that add so much personality to the world, making it feel alive and full of surprises. Exploration is split between the bustling streets of Kamurocho and the more laid-back vibe of Yokohama. Both areas are packed with detail, from neon-lit alleyways to cozy restaurants, and they're a joy to wander through. The attention to detail is insane, and there's always something to discover, whether it's a new side quest or just a quirky NPC with a story to tell. So yeah, Lost Judgment is an awesome game if you like detective work with some amazing combat, not a big RPG, but has a lot of stuff to do in it.
Come on, yes.
Divinity Original Sin. You play as a source hunter, tasked with investigating dangerous magic in the world of Rivellon. The story starts small, a murder mystery in a coastal town, but it quickly expands into something much bigger, involving gods, ancient secrets, and a world-threatening conspiracy. The narrative is solid, but what makes it special is how it unfolds through your choices. You can talk your way out of trouble, uncover hidden plots, or even miss entire storylines based on how you approach situations. The combat is turn-based and deeply tactical. Every move matters, and the game rewards creativity. The environment plays a huge role. Spilling oil and lighting it on fire, electrifying water puddles, or freezing enemies with rain are just a few of the possibilities. The system encourages you to think ahead and adapt to every encounter. It's tough, but when you nail a strategy and wipe out a group of enemies, it's incredibly satisfying. Character creation and customization are robust. You can pick your class, skills, and abilities, but the game doesn't lock you into a set path. Want a wizard who can pick locks, or a warrior who dabbles in necromancy? Go for it. The flexibility is fantastic and makes every playthrough feel unique. The world of Rivellon is full of life and detail. The towns are bustling with NPCs, secrets, and side quests, and the wilderness is packed with monsters, loot, and puzzles. Exploration feels rewarding because the game doesn't handhold, it expects you to figure things out, which makes every discovery feel earned. One of the standout features is co-op play. Whether you're playing online or couch co-op, Divinity Original Sin is built for teamwork. You and your partner can split up, tackle different tasks, and even argue over dialogue choices. It's a blast to work together or against each other in a world that reacts to your decisions. Divinity Original Sin is a masterclass in RPG design. It's smart, challenging, and packed with enough content to keep you hooked for hours. Whether you're a longtime fan of the genre or just looking for a game that rewards creativity and strategic thinking, this one's a gem. Just be ready to lose yourself in Rivellon. It's a world you won't want to leave.
Look, Ichiban, a roof.
Yakuza Like a Dragon. Yakuza Like a Dragon isn't just a bold reinvention of the series, it's a love letter to classic RPGs wrapped in the wild, over-the-top charm that the Yakuza franchise is known for. It takes a big gamble by switching from the action brawler combat fans were used to and instead delivers turn-based battles, but the result is something fresh, fun, and surprisingly heartfelt. You play as Ichiban Kasuga, a low-ranking Yakuza with a heart of gold and a love for Dragon Quest. After taking the fall for a crime he didn't commit, Ichiban spends 18 years in prison, only to emerge into a world that's left him behind. What starts as a personal quest for answers quickly spirals into a story about loyalty, betrayal, and building something bigger than yourself. Ichiban is a fantastic protagonist. He's goofy, optimistic, and endlessly likable, a stark contrast to the stoic Kazuma Kiryu. His enthusiasm is infectious, and his journey from rock bottom to leading a ragtag group of misfits feels genuinely inspiring. The supporting cast is just as strong, with characters like Namba, a down-on-his-luck ex-nurse, and Adachi, a grumpy ex-cop, each bringing their own quirks and backstories to the table. The chemistry between the group is electric, with plenty of hilarious banter and touching moments. The combat system is where Like a Dragon makes its biggest leap. It's turn-based, but it's not static. Positioning matters, and environmental objects can be used to deal extra damage, like smashing a bike into an enemy's face or kicking them into traffic. Each character has unique job classes, yes, jobs ranging from classics like mage in the form of a bartender who hurls drinks to absurd options like breakdancer or idol. The job system adds a ton of variety and encourages experimentation, especially when paired with the ridiculous special moves. Need a lobster to rain pain on your enemies? Ichiban's got you covered. The world of Yokohama feels alive and bustling. It's much larger than the previous settings of Kamurocho and Sotenbori, but it still retains that dense, every street has something interesting vibe. So you'll find plenty of side activities, from karaoke and batting cages to running your own business empire or catching bugs in a Mario Kart-like racing game. And let's not forget the sub-stories, those quirky, heartfelt side quests that Yakuza games are famous for. Whether you're helping a man reunite with his crawfish friend or taking down a shady diaper-wearing gang, they add so much flavor to the world. Visually, the game is stunning, the character models are detailed, and the neon-lit streets of Yokohama look gorgeous, especially at night. The soundtrack is a mix of upbeat tracks for battles and emotional themes that hit at just the right moments. What makes Like a Dragon so special is how it blends its goofy, over-the-top elements with a genuinely moving story. One moment you're summoning pigeons to attack a gangster, and the next you're dealing with the harsh realities of homelessness or family betrayal. It's a delicate balance, and the game pulls it off beautifully. If there's any adjustment for fans of the old Yakuza games, it's the shift to turn-based combat. It might take a bit of getting used to, but once it clicks, it's just as engaging as the brawling style. The slower pace might not be for everyone, but the depth and creativity make it worth sticking with. Yakuza Like a Dragon is a bold reinvention that pays off in every way. It's heartfelt, hilarious, and packed with enough content to keep you busy for hours. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the series, Ichiban's journey is one you don't want to miss. Get ready to laugh, cry, and maybe summon a giant lobster. It's that kind of game.
Tell them we're being attacked by thugs!
Horizon Zero Dawn. This game is something special. You've got this post-apocalyptic world where giant robot animals roam the landscape and humanity's gone back to living in tribes. It's such a cool concept and it hooks you right away. Plus, you play as Aloy, one of the most interesting and determined characters I've ever seen in a game. Aloy's story starts with her trying to figure out who she really is. She's been an outcast her whole life and now she's thrown into this massive mystery about the old world and why everything went to hell. The story is so good because it's not just about saving the world, it's personal. You're uncovering Aloy's past while piecing together what happened to humanity, and it's the kind of thing that keeps you up at night thinking, just one more mission. And fighting these robotic creatures is like solving a puzzle. You've got to think about what weapons to use, where their weak points are, and how to trap them. It's not just running in and mashing buttons, you actually have to plan. And when you take down a huge machine like a Thunderjaw, it feels so satisfying. Aloy's bow and all the gadgets she gets, traps, slingshots, tripwires give you so many ways to approach a fight. The world itself is stunning. Seriously, you'll be walking around and just stop to admire the view. You've got snowy mountains, dense forests, deserts. It's all so detailed and vibrant. And then there are the robots. They're not just enemies, they feel alive. The way they move, the sounds they make, it's like they're part of the ecosystem. It makes exploring feel exciting because you never know what's over the next hill. The game does an amazing job blending sci-fi with a tribal, almost primal vibe. You've got this mix of old ruins with advanced technology, and the way the game explains what happened to the world is just fascinating. It doesn't hit you over the head with exposition that lets you discover it through exploration and finding logs or old tech. If I'm being nitpicky, some of the side quests aren't as exciting as the main story, and fighting human enemies isn't as fun as taking down the machines. But honestly, those are small issues in a game that does so much right. Mount and Blade 2. Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord is the ultimate sandbox game for anyone who's ever dreamed of building an army, leading epic battles, and carving out their own kingdom in a sprawling medieval world. It's not about flashy storytelling or cinematic cutscenes, it's about freedom. You make your own story, and that's what makes it so addictive. The game throws you into Calradia, a massive, war-torn world filled with factions vying for control. You start as a nobody with a sword and a horse trying to make a name for yourself. From there, it's entirely up to you. Maybe you become a mercenary, a traitor, a bandit, or a loyal vassal to one of the big kingdoms. Or maybe you decide to say, screw it, I'll build my own empire and start taking over castles one by one. Combat is where Bannerlord really shines. Battles are huge, chaotic, and incredibly satisfying. Whether you're charging into a cavalry skirmish, leading archers to pick off enemies, or hacking through foot soldiers with your own sword, it feels visceral and tactical. You're not just swinging wildly, you need to time your attacks, position yourself smartly, and read the flow of the fight. And the fact that you're on the field fighting alongside your troops makes every battle feel personal. Outside of combat, there's a whole world of systems to dig into. Managing your army isn't just about throwing bodies at enemies. You need to keep your troops fed, paid, and motivated. Recruiting soldiers, training them up, and watching them grow into hardened veterans is super rewarding. There's also an entire economy to mess with, where you can trade goods, invest in workshops, or dominate the market in a particular region. Sieges are a standout feature. Taking a castle or defending one is intense. You'll be building battering rams, scaling walls with ladders, or raining down arrows from a tower. It's not just about brute force, it's about strategy and timing. These moments are some of the most cinematic and exciting parts of the game. The world of Calradia feels alive. Lords and ladies roam the map, waging wars, making alliances, and trying to expand their influence. It's not just a backdrop, it's a dynamic system where your actions can shift the balance of power. Maybe you'll sway a noble to your side, betray an ally, or strike a deal to buy peace for a while. It's all up to you. Visually, the game looks great, especially when you're on the battlefield. The character models and animations aren't groundbreaking, but the scale of the battles and the detail in the world more than make up for it. And there's something so satisfying about watching hundreds of troops clash in a fight you orchestrated. Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that's had quite the journey, hasn't it? It launched with all the hype in the world, stumbled hard out of the gate, and then fought its way back with a ton of updates and an expansion that finally realized its potential. And now, it's absolutely worth diving into. You play as V, a mercenary in Night City, a sprawling neon-soaked metropolis where everyone's chasing a dream or running from a nightmare. The story kicks off when a heist goes sideways and you end up with the digital ghost of Johnny Silverhand, played brilliantly by Keanu Reeves, stuck in your head. What follows is a journey full of moral dilemmas, personal stakes, and some unforgettable characters. Let's talk about Night City first because it's the star of the show. The place feels alive. The towering skyscrapers, the back alley slums, the glowing neon signs, every part of the city is dripping with atmosphere. NPCs wander around, advertisements blare at you from every corner, and the city feels chaotic in the best way. It's the kind of open world that begs to be explored. Combat is a blast once you get the hang of it. You've got a ton of options, from going full Rambo with guns blazing to hacking enemies' implants to make them fight each other. Want to slice through enemies with a katana? Done. Prefer sniping them from a distance with a smart rifle? Easy. The game encourages you to experiment, and the customization options are deep enough to make every playthrough feel different. The quests are where Cyberpunk 2077 really shines. Sure, the main story is engaging, but the side quests, they're something else. They're not just filler, they're packed with story, character development, and tough choices. Whether you're helping Judy uncover the dark side of Brandon's tech, getting involved in Panem's struggles with her nomad family, or simply taking a moment to hang out with Johnny, these missions feel meaningful. They're emotional, funny, and often make you pause to think about the consequences of your action. And then there's the Phantom Liberty expansion, which takes everything up a notch. It adds a whole new area, Dogtown, and a spy thriller storyline that's intense and full of twists. Idris Elba as Solomon Reed is fantastic, and the decisions you make in the expansion hit hard. It's some of the best content in the game, and it elevates the entire experience. The visuals are jaw-dropping. Night City is gorgeous, especially at night when the neon lights reflect off the streets. The character models, the cars, the interiors, it all looks stunning. And the soundtrack? It's perfect for the world. The mix of electronic beats and moody tracks sets the tone perfectly, whether you're cruising the streets or diving into a gunfight. Cyberpunk 2077 might not have lived up to its original hype at launch, but in its current state, it's an incredible experience. The storytelling, the world building, the gameplay, it all comes together to create a game that's worth your time. Whether you're here for the action, the drama, or just to soak in the vibes of Night City, this is a game that demands a second chance. NieR Automata. NieR Automata is one of those rare games that gets under your skin and stays with you long after the credits roll. It's not just an action RPG with tight combat, it's a story-driven experience that questions humanity, purpose, and existence itself. And then it makes you question yourself. It's weird, emotional, and completely unforgettable. You start as 2B, a stoic android sent to Earth to fight an endless war against alien machines. Alongside her is 9S, a curious and chatty android who complements her no-nonsense attitude. The premise sounds straightforward, robots fighting other robots, but it doesn't take long for the game to peel back its layers. What's really going on with the war? Why are the machines mimicking human behavior? And what does it mean to have purpose in a world that's already fallen apart? The story keeps surprising you with twists, and by the time you've seen everything, it's clear this game is operating on another level. Combat is fast, fluid, and stylish, courtesy of Platinum Games. You've got a mix of melee attacks, ranged weapons, and acrobatic dodges that make every fight feel dynamic. The best part, it's not just hacking and slashing, there are sections that shift to bullet hell shooter mechanics or side-scrolling platforming. The variety keeps things exciting, and the seamless transitions between gameplay styles are a joy to experience. But the game isn't just about combat. The open world, while not massive, is hauntingly beautiful. It's desolate but filled with small details that tell their own stories. A crumbling amusement park, a deserted factory, a village where machines live peacefully, it's all tied together by an incredible atmosphere. The world feels lonely yet alive, and exploring it is as much about soaking in the vibe as it is about finding loot or quests. One of the most unique things about NieR Automata is how it handles its multiple endings. This isn't just a game you beat once. After finishing the first playthrough, the story shifts perspectives, giving you new angles, gameplay, and context. It's not until you've seen all the major endings that the full picture becomes clear. And trust me, the payoff is absolutely worth it. The soundtrack deserves its own spotlight. Keiichi Okabe's score is a masterpiece, blending orchestral, electronic, and haunting vocals into something that elevates every moment. Whether you're in the heat of battle or wandering through a desolate wasteland, the music pulls you in and amplifies the emotion. NieR Automata isn't just a game, it's an experience. It's thought-provoking, emotional, and unlike anything else out there. Whether you're here for the combat, the story, or just to see what all the fuss is about, this is a journey you won't forget. And when you finish, you'll probably want to talk about it with everyone you know. It's that kind of game. Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is one of those games that just gets everything right. It's got the charm, the depth, and the freedom that make RPGs so special. Even years after its release, it's still hailed as one of the best in the Fallout series, and for good reason. The game starts with a bang, literally. You play as the Courier, a simple delivery person left for dead in the Mojave Desert after being shot in the head and buried alive. Thanks to a Good Samaritan robot, you're patched up and ready to uncover who tried to kill you and why. What starts as a revenge story quickly spirals into something much bigger. The fate of New Vegas and the entire region is at stake, and your choices will decide who comes out on top. New Vegas isn't just a backdrop, it's the heart of the game. The world is a mix of wild wastelands, quirky settlements, and the neon-soaked strip, all packed with memorable characters and hidden stories. The factions are where the game truly shines. You've got the militaristic New California Republic, the brutal slavers of Caesar's Legion, and the enigmatic Mr. House who runs New Vegas like his own personal fiefdom. Or, if you're feeling ambitious, you can ignore all of them and carve out your own path. The choice is entirely yours. And that's the magic of New Vegas, the freedom. Your decisions matter, and the game never shies away from giving you tough choices. Who you side with, what you say, even how you solve quests, it all shapes the world around you. Want to talk your way out of trouble? You can. Prefer to blow everything up? That works too. The writing is sharp, full of wit, and often hilariously dark, making every dialogue option feel meaningful. The companions are another highlight. Each one has their own backstory, personality, and goals. Boone, the stoic sniper with a tragic past, and Veronica, the cheerful but conflicted member of the Brotherhood of Steel, are just two examples of how well the game develops its characters. They feel like more than just sidekicks, they're partners in your journey. Visually, the game shows its age, but the world design and atmosphere more than make up for it. The Mojave Wasteland is desolate, but there's beauty in its sunsets, rundown towns, and the eerie glow of the strip at night. The soundtrack, with its mix of old-timey radio tunes and haunting ambient tracks, sets the mood perfectly. Fallout New Vegas is everything an RPG should be: immersive, challenging, and packed with player-driven choices. Whether you're exploring the wasteland, getting lost in the politics of its factions, or just messing around with a flamethrower, there's always something to do. It's not just a game, it's a world you want to live in, flaws and all. If you haven't played it, grab your Pip-Boy and get out there. The Mojave is waiting.
Showing an awareness of his surroundings. Oh my God, Miranda.
Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 isn't just a game, it's an experience that raises the bar for storytelling, character development, and player choice. It's a perfect middle chapter that takes everything great about the first game and refines it, delivering one of the most memorable sci-fi adventures in gaming. The story kicks off with Commander Shepard, your character, dies in the opening minutes of the game, only to be resurrected by the mysterious Cerberus organization. From there, you're tasked with building a team of specialists to take on the Collectors, a deadly alien force abducting entire human colonies. The stakes are high, and the game's suicide mission premise adds a layer of tension that keeps you hooked from start to finish. The heart of Mass Effect 2 lies in its characters. Every member of your squad has their own backstory, motivations, and personal quest. From the stoic and loyal Garrus to the enigmatic and deadly Thane, each character feels real and layered. The loyalty missions, where you help your team members with their personal struggles, are some of the best parts of the game. They're not just side quests, they're windows into who these people are and why they fight alongside you. And if you don't build their trust, well, let's just say the suicide mission gets a lot riskier. The choices you make carry weight not just in Mass Effect 2, but across the series. Your decisions from the first game come back to haunt or help you, and the ones you make here will shape the story of Mass Effect 3. It's not just about picking Paragon or Renegade options, it's about how you interact with your team, handle tough moral dilemmas, and navigate the gray areas of intergalactic politics. Combat in Mass Effect 2 is a major improvement over the first game. It's faster, more fluid, and more tactical. Each class feels distinct, whether you're a biotic powerhouse flinging enemies around the battlefield or a tech specialist hacking enemy defenses. The cover-based shooting feels tight, and the addition of heavy weapons and specialized ammo types keeps combat fresh. It's a perfect blend of RPG and third-person shooter mechanics. The world building is, as always, stellar. You'll visit a variety of locations, from gritty slums to high-tech labs to alien landscapes that feel both strange and lived in. Every corner of the galaxy is dripping with lore, and exploring it feels rewarding. Whether you're scanning planets for resources or diving into a bar on Omega to chat with locals, there's always something to discover. Visually, the game still holds up thanks to its sharp art direction and cinematic presentation. The cutscenes are beautifully shot and the voice acting is top-notch. The cast, including Mark Meer and Jennifer Hale as Shepard and iconic performances from Martin Sheen as the Elusive Man, delivers every line with conviction. If there's one area where Mass Effect 2 stumbles slightly, it's the planet scanning system. It's not bad, but it can feel a bit repetitive after a while. That said, it's a small blemish on an otherwise incredible game. Mass Effect 2 is more than just a sequel, it's a masterclass in how to tell a story in a video game. With its unforgettable characters, gripping plot, and impactful choices, it's a journey that stays with you long after the credits roll. Whether you're saving the galaxy or just chatting with your crew over a drink, this is a game that makes every moment count. If you haven't experienced it yet, you're in for something truly special.
These mechs don't know when to quit.